E- Everybody can be crazy together.
Good plan.
Okay. Bum, 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 bum. Let me do a couple things really quickly. Nice. Okay, so I've been saying it for a long time. The link and the posts and the graphics are finally all together and all correct from all parties for In the Council of Lions. So today I will be posting on both social, Instagram, and in the book group, the Facebook group for Lions and Legends. The link, I'm going to encourage you, if you are even remotely interested and ready to commit, that you fill out your application. I have a pretty good list of people who have verbally confirmed. And so I'm pretty sure we will get through the second conference, as in I think the first conference will fill up. The second conference will start March 11th. Okay, someone's got feedback for me. There we go. Thanks. Anyway, so the first one I'm putting out first because I need to fill that completely before we roll to the next one. And then should we fill that one, I am prepared to do a third one. And so we will go, along as we go, I should say, right? It'll happen. So I'm very excited. There's some really good things. The agenda is unbelievable. We've spent a lot of time with my team really working on the agenda and the whole experience. And so every single day there is something remarkable happening in that 10-day luxury conference. And so when I talk about luxury, I want to explain to you something. Luxury doesn't mean the way you dress. It means where we live and sleep and how we get around in Africa. I fully expect to be dressed somewhat like I am now. But we will be in every single one of our places is a 5-star resort, and not 5-star by African standards, but 5-star by what I would say would be American and European standards. So if you're unfamiliar with 5-star conversations in Africa, it looks very much the same. In fact, in some ways, even better than an American or European sector. So I'm very excited about that. That'll be thrown out there today. The links will be up. We'll be ready to rumble. Very, very encouraged by the feedback from all y'all and people. It is, excuse me, for entrepreneurs. So it is not just people in our industry. Like, I'm inviting the world to come because I think we can learn things outside of our industry. So I think there'll be a core of people that are from the real estate world, but I think there will also be a series of people who are not connected in our industry, but are business owners and entrepreneurs. And so I'm excited for that because I think there'll be different growth opportunities for each one of us. So anyway, enough said about that. I'm very excited about it. The second thing that I do want to take a little time for today is, obviously today is 9/11, September 11th. And so there are many people in our country and in our world who have, their lives have forever been changed by that. So I want to honor those people. I want to, if you're connected in your family anyway to that kind of loss, man, our heart still breaks for you. America was so amazing after that. And I know now we kind of look back and can say, gosh, where did that America go? And we don't learn our lessons very well sometimes in America. We don't learn them in the real estate world. We don't learn them in our private lives sometimes. So I do want to just take the time right now to publicly thank the people the first responders and people who willingly gave their lives. There were a whole bunch of people who unwillingly gave their life, but there were some that went that extra mile. And that speaks to me on a different level. I'm sorry for the loss of the people, all of the people, but I think there's an extra, benefit and blessing to the families for the ones that were led by people who would personally sacrifice themselves. And so I think that that's such a great example for us as we live our life. Not that I'm asking you to run into burning buildings, but think about how we treat each other and how we can be kind to people who, don't look like us, don't think like us, don't talk like us, don't walk like us, whatever. Or even the ones who actually look and think and talk and walk like we do, right? Humanity is amazing. And so I want to honor that. Today, I also want to, I'm moving through these things fast because our speaker's here and I really want Kyle to have some time. So I'm not being insensitive to each one of these things. I hope you get that. Our conference for real is coming up next month. It's right around the corner. And if you have not registered for Rise, I encourage you to jump into Workplace and do that because I would love to see your little faces there and have Arizona have a great representation. And I think that we are leading the company in culture and goodness. And so the work hard, be kind. I think we have an inordinate number of people in our state who fill the bill. And so if we can just bleed that over so that we can bleed on to the rest of the company and let them feel and see and know the love that we have for one another, I think that testimony speaks for itself. So if you haven't done that, I would love for you to do that. I want to thank both Liz, Kim, and Sharp. I can't see if we have other of our sponsors on today, but I appreciate you guys, appreciate all you do. We have a fete coming up, which these guys just so graciously help sponsor, and that is on October 3rd. And that will be at Todd Bookspan, his office on Central. We'll get out that graphic pretty soon, one thing at a time for me, but it's coming around the corner. So if you could block off 9 to 1 a.m., that's not true. 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. I mean, I got stamina. I could do it. If you want to, we could do it. But 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. on October 3rd, we will have some pretty amazing speakers. And I think every one of these fate incidences just gets better and better because we just know more and more and we're ready to grow faster and wider and stronger. So that is it for all of my crazy announcements. Goodness sakes. My final announcement for today is an actual introduction to Kyle Fuller. Kyle has a really great, first of all, great human being, great heart, and an exceptional mind. And when we can combine those three things together and then we can add in learning to that, I think there's something pretty magical that happens. And so he has some things to share that have changed a lot of, oh yeah, thanks Chelsea, who have changed a lot of people's lives. And so their financial picture is different, the way they think is different. And so I want to have Kyle come, but Chelsea just reminded me, sorry, Kyle, stand by. We have Sharon will be in town this week because of the Built How conference, and he'll be on the interview panel. And so on Wednesday, each of you should have received a text message from corporate inviting you to the happy hour with Sharon. The tickets are $25 a piece, I believe. So if you are in town and want some more intimate time with our leadership, this is a great idea for you to attend. If you want to attend Built How, give me a shout afterwards and I can connect you with discount tickets so that we can get you in the door. Okay. All right. That's it. My friend Kyle, thanks for letting me interject in the middle of this, but I'm super thankful that you're here today. I'm excited for what you're here to share. And you have a great audience of people who are ready to learn, I am certain.
I love it. Well, thanks for having me. It's a super big honor. I already know a lot of you on this call, and so this is going to be a ton of fun. And Kimberly, how much time do you want me to teach?
Thank you. We try to click off like a couple of minutes before 11, so we get people ready for their 11 o'clocks.
Perfect. So I'm going to teach for about 35 minutes and make this as interactive as I can, and then we'll open it up for some Q&A at the end. But I want to make sure that we all know today's going to just be very educational. I'm going to be teaching some things that you're going to be hearing in the real estate world a lot in the next 10 years. And so some of the companies at Factum, which is my company that teaches infinite banking, we're already working with a lot of the top executives at RE/MAX. I'll be at the Built How. A lot of their top leadership is looking at this and implementing it within their teams as well. Keller Williams is one of the front runners for this. They are now teaching what I'm about to show you at every single wealth mastermind they're teaching, because this is going to impact the real estate industry so dramatically. So I have heard so many good things about Real, so many good people that I know that went over to Real and are working there. You're there for the culture, the community, all the amazing things that help disrupt and change industries I know exist here at Real. And so what I'm about to show you is something you're going to see on a very large scale inside the real estate industry. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. and we are going to go ahead and dive in. So my company, Factom, our slogan is beat the banks. And that's exactly what I'm going to show you how to do today so that you can do this inside your business or inside your personal life. Whether you're an employee, self-employed, business owner, or investor, all of us need the bankers in our life. And today is going to be a major paradigm shift to probably what a lot of you have heard or believed about money, which is why we take a very educational approach. And so one idea that we believe in here at Factom is that life includes 5 areas: spiritual, personal, family, financial, and occupation. And if you want to wake up and enjoy every second of every day, you've got to create abundance in these 5 areas. So although my company primarily teaches in the financial sector, the reason that we coach and educate clients on how to win the money game is not just to have more money, but it's actually to fund the perfect life. So we can have more experiences with our families. We can spend the type of money we want to on our personal lives, our health, those experiences. Do we have purpose and passion in life? Communities, charities. You know, Kimberly was just talking about a group of you are going down to Africa. We do a lot of nonprofit in Honduras right now and within the States. And so giving is such a major part of this life. And then also the occupation. So what I do and what I'm about to show you, I love it so much that I don't use the word retirement anymore. You know, I'm living my purpose right now, and it's to teach this educational process around infinite banking. And so this is an idea that we believe, and you'll get this feel within our community that there's more here than just a financial conversation. Now, the way that we help people win financially is by focusing on some key components of wealth building. So we teach some very large wealth seminars about twice a year. We have one coming up next week. And we go very in-depth into the strategies that you're seeing right here, which are very unique to our messaging here at Factom. Now, what's interesting about the bottom portion of this pyramid you're looking at, we'd call this the wealth foundation. This piece is non-negotiable for anyone playing the money game. Whether you're making $50,000 a year or $500 million a year, you do not get to the top of the money game without a proper foundation in place. And this is really meant to protect you so you can grow and scale as high as you possibly can in the wealth building game. Okay, so this piece is non-negotiable. We start with education first because we have to know what we're doing as we start scaling. Now, the top part of this pyramid we'd call the wealth acceleration. And this part is unique because this is where your actual investing strategy comes into play. And the interesting thing about investing is that everyone's investing conversation should look entirely different because we all have different abilities, unique goals. And so no one's investing strategy can look the same. Some of you might be in real estate, some of you only in business, some people in crypto, some people in retirement programs, whatever it is, everyone's investing strategy has to look different. But we really focus and primarily teach the foundational concepts of wealth building, which are non-negotiable. You have to have proper insurance in place, a saving strategy, living trust, power of attorneys, asset protection. And we've got an entire team that helps focus on building that foundation. And there's one more element that affects every single segment in this wealth pyramid, and that's what we call banking. You see, whether you're an employee, self-employed individual, business owner, or investor, so the 4 quadrants that Robert Kiyosaki teaches on, every single one of those people need the banker in their life. And so I want you to really think about that. What I'm talking about is banking, and this is where you're going to have a major paradigm shift the next 30 minutes as we go through some of this process. Why have we never been taught to get into the banking role in our life? You see, whether we've been taught if you want to win the money game, you got to become a business owner or an investor. And that is absolutely true. But you can also be a banker in your life that's financing and controlling the flow of money for your business, for your investments, or anything you're doing personally. And the best way to learn about how to accomplish that concept is from this book right here, Becoming Your Own Banker. Now, this is a quick 90-page read, very quick read. And the entire concept and idea that we teach in exists in this book. Now, the very first line in this book says, Becoming Your Own Banker, the Infinite Banking Concept is a text for a 10-hour course of instruction about the power of dividend-paying whole life insurance. Now, what I teach is very niche, but I'll also say I probably teach one of the hardest concepts to educate on out there, because the moment I say the words whole life insurance, red flags start going up in lots of people's heads because they've heard some things that aren't necessarily true about whole life insurance, but sometimes we get caught up in the noise. And so what I'm teaching you today in the next 35 minutes that Kimberly asked me to teach takes most people about 8 to 10 hours of exposure before all the light bulbs go off and you go, oh my gosh, I get what's going on now. Okay, so my goal here is not to close anyone, it's just to educate you. I'm going to have some additional resources for you at the end of this. So the very next column on this page says this book is not about investments of any kind. It's about how one finances the things of life, which can certainly include investments. It's not about rates of return. So we learned something very interesting about whole life insurance on the very first page of this book, that it's not an investment and it has nothing to do with investing. So what most people can tell you about whole life insurance, if you say, hey, I listened to this guy this morning talk about whole life insurance as a banking tool. What do you know about whole life insurance? Your neighbor, your business partner, your uncle who knows everything about money but doesn't have any money will tell you, oh, whole life insurance, low rate of return, expensive to own, it's the worst investment of all time. That's what we hear very commonly from the American public about whole life insurance. So you just learned something new, that whole life has nothing to do with investing. It is a savings environment conversation. And this is why companies like RE/MAX, Keller Williams, the real estate world in general is starting to get so interested in this private savings conversation, because they're starting to understand what's going on as well, which is why we're also now teaching here at Real, because the community you have over here is absolutely phenomenal. Now, in this book, there's one problem that if you can understand this problem, the entire concept will make sense to you. Now, this is the problem I don't hear being addressed in any other financial sector, not from financial advisors. Nowhere else in the financial world is anyone talking about this problem. And Nelson Nash, the author of this book, said it this way: you finance everything in life. Now, what does that mean, you're financing everything in life? It means you're either going to borrow money from someone else and pay them interest, or if you were anything like me growing up, my dad taught me to pay cash because his dad taught him to pay cash. What I didn't realize is when I paid cash, I gave up the ability to earn interest on that money forever. That money is transferred out of my life. So this problem exists in our life. We either pay up interest or we give up interest we could have earned. And the problem here is with all these transactions we have in our life as a personal consumer, a business owner, or investor, all of these items are financed by someone else's banking system. And I'm going to show you how you can put that control and that power back in your life. Now, I want to make this interactive, so get ready on your keyboards because I'm going to ask you a few questions. We talk about common versus uncommon in my company. I know everyone on this call is uncommon because you're willing to invest an hour tying into the Lion and Legends conversation with Kimberly to grow and learn and develop. And your business development is always attached directly to your personal development. We know that. So you are the uncommon. Now, I want you to take a guess to be in the top 50% of income earners, household in the United States. How much income do you have to be bringing in? You can just throw it up in the chat right now. Take a guess. 40,000. Good guess. Who else? 56,000, 65, 75. I love it. Let's take 200. Okay. Let's take a look. To be in the top 50% of income earners in the United States, you got to be making $41,000 a year. Top 50%. Now, what about, take a guess, top 25. To be in the top quarter of income earners in America, how much does your household have to be bringing in? Top 25%. 70,000, 58. 83,000. So if you're making $83,000 a year, you're in the top 25% of income earners. What about top 10? Be in the top 10% of income earners. 120, 100,000, 120, 110. Let's take a look. 145,000 to be in the top 10%. To be in the top 5%, it's 208. Last one, top 1%. If you are in the top 1% of income earners household, how much you got to be making? 400? Okay. 320. These are some good guesses. 350. I love it. 515. So if you're making a little bit over $500,000 a year, you are in the top 1% of income earners in the United States. So what I want you to do right now is look about where you're at on this list. So if you are making an uncommonly high income, which I'm sure everyone on this call is, we have got to stop taking common financial advice. We should not be doing what most Americans are doing. We need to do things that are more uncommon. Now, bonus question, what do you think you need to be making worldwide to be in the top 1% of income earners in the world? So Kimberly said a lot of you are going down to Africa. Our team does nonprofit in Honduras right now. We usually go once a year. What do you think the rest of the world makes, comparatively speaking, to Americans? To be in the top 1% worldwide, what do you think it is? 400, okay. 300, top 1% worldwide. 250, all right. You ready? $34,000 a year. So the reason we show people this has got to put things in perspective for us as Americans. We are so unbelievably blessed with abundance to live in the United States. Income 100% is not our problem here. We have an uncommonly high income. The top 50% of Americans live substantially better than the rest of the world, the top 1% of income earners worldwide. So the reason we show this is to get us some perspective. We do not have an income problem in America. We might think we do. I'm only making $120,000 a year, right? We're strapped. But comparatively speaking, we are living substantially better than the rest of the world. So what is our problem? All right. So the two biggest problems that we see and that we're addressing here at Factum is the savings rate in America. So how much should we really be saving? Well, if we look back from the year 2000 to, this is January of 2023, the personal savings rate of Americans is less than 5%, okay? So what this means is if you want to be common, save 5% or less of your income. Do what most Americans are doing. And this is a huge problem that we see. Because reality is, if we want to be uncommon, if we want to do very well in the money game, we've got to start saving in the realm of 10 to 30% of our income. Now, if you read any financial book, Tony Robbins, Dave Ramsey, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, The Richest Man in Babylon, whatever it is, all of those financial books will teach you one thing: pay yourself first. And the percentage is always 10%. That's not a coincidence, in my opinion. If you're saving 10% of your income, you're saving twice minimum what the average American is saving. Okay, this is a huge problem in our culture, in our society, is that we consume so much and we don't save enough. And why is it a problem that we don't save enough? Well, because we've always been taught that cash is king. We hear that all the time. Cash is king. Well, if it is, who has it? Because this graph that you're looking at right now, this is the average days of liquidity or savings that American business owners have in the United States. So here in Phoenix, the average business owner has 25 days of liquidity, meaning if they stopped making income for 30 days a month, they would be feeling the pressure financially. And this is why we saw so many businesses get wiped out during COVID. Soon as we had a shift in our business, we're coming into a recession right now. The real estate market has shifted. You are all aware of that. If we don't have enough liquidity or savings, what good did the previous 10 years worth of 20, 30% growth annually, 100% that you were earning do for you? You could be obliterated in just a few short months. So the two biggest problems we're seeing here with Americans is we don't save enough money. We don't keep enough in our liquid reserves. Those go hand in hand. And I'm convinced that one of the reasons why we do not save enough money as Americans is, one, we've never been taught some of these principles, but two, the savings environment that most Americans keep money in are so inefficient, it's really hard to save money when you don't ever see your savings do anything for you. Does that make sense? So what we've been programmed to do is just save with the banks. That's just what we've been told to do. So we make money, we keep our liquid reserves at the banks. But the problem is Chase Bank, Wells Fargo, B of A, they don't really give us a lot of value to keep our savings there. And so we want to shift that conversation and start talking about an uncommon place to save money. Now,
Hey, Kyle, can I interrupt for just a second? Sorry.
Please, yeah.
Can you go back to that screen for a second? Because I think there's something really powerful that we're not talking about when we look at this screen. You look at these cities on here: Seattle, Portland, San Francisco, San Jose, LA, San Diego, Salt Lake, Denver, Phoenix, Dallas. I mean, keep going, go across. Look at all of these cities that have major league sports teams, that have a serious Hollywood or consumer base to them. Like, this is where the vast majority of America's wealth is. Like, you look at movie stars and you're like, oh my gosh, they have so much money, they can afford to do whatever. It apparently doesn't look like they're doing things any differently. It's just that their scale is different. And so I kind of want to throw that out there, because I think sometimes we have a funny skew of money and who has it, you know, to your point of who has it. It's interesting to me that people who are in these hubs where money is prevalent and opportunity is prevalent, and there's a lot of wealth in these, the numbers look the same. So if you make 50 billion a year or you make 50,000 a year, it kind of looks the same as you go across the nation. And so for this audience, part of that, I just think you need to gel that in your head for a second, because sometimes I think we think, oh, well, if I made more money, my numbers wouldn't look like that. But look at these places where we all know there's, you know, a very high number of millionaires and billionaires in each one of these spots. And so they're factored in. So I just kind of want you to get the kind of the gravity of the scale might be different, but the percentages and the numbers are very human, and you're not that far different than what you think of somebody who is like a Beyonce, for instance, right? Like, these people make astronomical amounts of money, but yet their businesses, or if like Bezos, look at that, look at New York. Like, so I'm struck by that, because when we think about cash is king and who has it, and we think, oh, everybody has way more than I do, so these things are unattainable for me. It's not true. And if these numbers are accurate, which I would assume they're accurate, right? Then that breaks down that whole philosophy that sometimes we carry in our heads about, well, that might work for people who have money, because it's not true based on this information. That's all.
You're absolutely right, Kimberly. And this is why we teach the foundations of those key components. I've got a gentleman I'm working with right now who used to play for the Raiders, and he's done very well after his professional football career. And so he's got some organizations that are geared towards teaching younger professional athletes more about money earlier on, because those statistics are also crazy. Some of these guys that we're bringing in $20 or $30 million a year through their contracts are broke within 5 to 10 years, if not sooner, when they leave the NFL. And so it's not an income problem. It is a foundational problem around savings. And so we want to make sure that wherever we're at in our journey, that we are on the uncommon side of things, which starts with savings. Now, I'm big on following a system or a model. And so when I first started learning this 10 years ago, what I did is I just went and studied some of the wealthiest companies in the world, which are commercial banks. So these banks right here, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Chase Bank, Citibank, these numbers at the bottom, 24 billion, 19 billion, 12 billion. This represents something called BOLI, or bank-owned life insurance. Now, these numbers are how much these banks have in cash inside their insurance policies. So I'm going to say that again. These banks, with all the money they make, they intentionally do not save or keep their savings with commercial banks. They keep it with life insurance companies in what we would call whole life insurance at the middle class level. Okay, so These banks are saving inside of insurance products, not bank accounts. Why? You know, I don't think I'm that smart, but I can look at some of the best players in the money game and say, what are they doing? Why don't I just do the same thing for me and my family? And that's what I've done the last 10 years. Now, I'm going to show you why these banks prefer to save with whole life insurance policies as opposed to a checking or savings account. Now, I'm not saying I don't use banks anymore, because we definitely do. I just don't leave a lot of my cash liquid reserves with the bank. I keep a minimal amount of money there, and I keep the rest of it into my whole life system of policies, which I'm going to show you at the end of this call. So the reason these banks like to save with whole life insurance is because they get a lot more benefit by doing that. So the common things that you'll hear about in the big wide world, if you mention whole life insurance, is it's got a low rate of return, it's expensive to own, it's the worst investment of all time. Now, by now, hopefully we've learned that whole life insurance is not an investment. Banks do not invest into whole life insurance, they save into whole life insurance. And we need to look at it as a savings vehicle, not an investment like real estate, 401k, crypto, things like that. Now, people have known about this for a very long time in our country. So Theodore Roosevelt, our US president from 1901 to 1909, said life insurance increases the stability of the business world, raises its moral tone, and puts a premium upon those habits of thrift and saving, which are so essential to the welfare of the people as a body. You see, about 100 years ago, most Americans would have considered whole life insurance a very common place to save money. Now, there's been some things, and Kimberly kind of alluded to it earlier, you know, like we're quick to forget sometimes. We don't learn our lessons properly. And if we just go back 100 years and study what some of the wealthiest people, families were doing back then and where they saved, there's a direct correlation from the stock market being introduced and more risk transferred to the American people. And I'm not saying the stock market's bad, but as a savings vehicle, Americans got away from whole life insurance at that time. And we're really bringing that education back to the forefront. So we would call whole life insurance a savings environment, which is very uncommon. And when you start shifting your savings and you put it into a whole life insurance contract, you're going to get these 8 benefits. And the first one you get is constant compounding. Okay, so one of the most unique benefits of a whole life insurance policy is that any dollars you flow into it, you capture them and harness the earning potential forever until the day you die. So think about that in contrast to a checking or savings account. You might have $150,000 a year, whatever it is, flowing through your checking or savings right now, and then you use it for marketing, to go to lunch, vacations, and that money flows right through your account and it's gone forever. That's what we talked about earlier, is that problem. You either pay up interest or you give up interest you could have earned. If you're saving a portion of your income into whole life insurance, those dollars that go into there are captured, controlled, and you earn interest on those for the rest of your life. So we'd call this constant compounding. Now, when people really take a hold of this one, this is why we'll hear like, I wish I would have known about this 20 years ago, because there's a lot of money that flows through our hands, and we're talking about controlling more of that flow in your life. Now, the next one is liquidity. These whole life policies are incredibly liquid, which is great for your foundation to keep you protected, but it's also really good for opportunity and acceleration. So we are going into a recession right now. And there was a funny gal on Twitter, I can't remember who it was, but she said, my biggest financial regret in life was being in 8th grade when I should have been buying foreclosed real estate in 2010, right? I was like, we got a good laugh about that because, you know, I'm 34 right now and I just graduated high school and my family lost everything in the economic crash of 2008. You want to know why my parents lost everything? Because they didn't have any savings. They had no protection, no liquidity to float them through that time. But at the exact same time, people who had access to cash and savings, they created fortunes in 2010, 11, 12. So this policy allows you to earn that constant compounding, keeps you protected, but also lets you wait for the opportunity that's not an if, it's a when. A lot of the groups that I'm in right now, they are just shoring up as much cash as they can, waiting for something to shift. Something's going to change, and when it does, they're going to jump on that opportunity. We should be doing the same thing. Now, the third benefit is my personal favorite. Whole life insurance is the only asset in the world that has contractual guarantees that are in place for your entire life. Now, these guarantees mean that your cash, because there's cash that's built into these policies, that's why the banks are buying them. They're not necessarily buying them for death benefit, they're buying it for the cash. Your cash values increase guaranteed every single year. No matter what the market's doing, it's in a contractual guarantee. Your death benefit, because it is life insurance, also increases every single year guaranteed. And the premiums that you're paying now, if you bought a policy, are locked in forever. They will never increase. So this asset alone is incredibly unique because there's no other asset you can compare to, which is why the banks, giant corporations, wealthy families, they love this asset because of those guarantees. And so this is why we put whole life as the foundation, right? Because of those guarantees as your savings vehicle to support whatever you're doing for your business or your investments. Now, the next benefit you get is as you save into that whole life policy, you're able to borrow, listen to this, against your cash value. You don't borrow from your policy, okay? So this is similar to like a HELOC on a property. You're borrowing against the equity of your home. And so you can do this in a whole life contract too. Most people are aware of this feature to a point. What this does, though, it gives you a guaranteed line of credit with an unstructured private loan. So some of you that are on this call are already working with us. And when you take a policy loan against your cash values, you're still compounding on the money that's in there, but then you can go use that loan to invest in real estate, grow your business, whatever it is. But this flexible loan provision gives you ultimate control in the money game. The fifth benefit you get is privacy. There's a reason we don't have anything else on this slide. These loans don't show up on any credit report. The IRS has no idea how much my policies grow every single year, guaranteed. My CPA doesn't even know because none of this is reportable. Whole life insurance is not an investment, okay? It is life insurance, but if you structure it properly and you know how to use it, you as the consumer would say, this is like the world's greatest savings vehicle, and it's one of the most private assets that exists. And so if you go back to just American culture, our heritage, I think one of the reasons why America was founded is because we wanted some privacy, some control, some independence for ourselves. And that's really what this asset provides. Ultimate control, ultimate privacy in the money game. Now, one of our favorite terms is passive income. The number one rule of winning the money game is to create income or cash flow in our life. Now, because the policies are guaranteed to grow every year, I'm going to show you my system of policies at the end of this. It produces passive income for me every single month while I'm alive. And each year I'm alive, that passive income increases guaranteed. So imagine buying a property that was guaranteed to appreciate in cash flow for you. Like, would you want a few of those assets in your portfolio? Yes, absolutely. Okay. So passive income now and passive income later. One of the reasons why I think Americans don't like savings is because our savings environments are so inefficient. It never does anything for us, even if we've been saving for 20 or 30 years. But my system of policies right now is growing a little bit over $3,500 a month, completely income tax free. So if you're in a high tax bracket, that's a lot of money that my savings accounts are pumping out every single month that I can use for whatever it is. The next big one is the tax-free, income tax-free transfer of wealth. We know we live in a perpetual debt society. Okay, a lot of our kids that are being born, you know, we're raising these kids, we're doing the best we can, but most of us are born into some type of perpetual debt cycle. Our parents probably had a little bit of debt. We got a little bit of debt. We can't get out of this consumer and spending nightmare. And so one of the big benefits is that you also have insurance inside these policies or your savings accounts. And so when you pass away, you're going to be putting the next generation in a better position than we probably started ourselves. And I always liked that, I don't know if it's a proverb, but it's you know, the person who plants a seed knowing they'll never sit under the shade of that tree is starting to figure out the essence of life. Now, these policies have some wonderful living benefits. But one of the things I love is that my 3 boys are going to get a tremendous windfall when my wife and I pass away. And as long as we're being good stewards and we're educating them on this, we do a lot with private family banking, they're going to be able to escape this perpetual debt cycle that most Americans are in and can't seem to get out of, okay? Going back to our statement earlier, our early founding fathers, early presidents, people had access to the best financial minds at the time. They knew that this type of asset was very beneficial as an independent citizen in this country. And the last benefit we get is a very high savings rate inside of whole life. So most Americans would say whole life insurance has a low rate of return. I would argue that it has the highest rate of return as a savings vehicle. And at the end of this, I'm going to give you a QR code that you can scan to get some additional resources. Now, you shift your savings environment, which is where a lot of the industry is going now, to this asset, and you're going to get these 8 benefits versus keeping your money at a bank and it being liquid and safe, which are really the only 2 benefits we get by keeping sometimes substantial amounts of cash at the bank. And I'm going to end with this point right here. Banking versus investing. One of the biggest misconceptions and paradigms that people have to overcome with this is they always compare what I teach to investing. And so our definition of investing is this. When you go to invest, what you're doing is you are intentionally separating your control of money with the expectation that additional money returns in the future. That's what investing is. So you've got some savings right now, let's say $50,000. You're going to take that out of that environment. You're going to give up control to it. You're going to go put it into a property. And as long as you know about that property, you're an expert, your expectation should be very high that that property is going to pay you back with more money. That's what investing is, okay? Taking money out of your control, putting it into an asset that would bring in more money. Now, the definition of banking is literally the exact opposite conversation. So what I teach is called banking, and it will affect you as an investor, a business owner, or a consumer. You see, banking is about intentionally keeping that flow of money in your life permanently in an environment where you have complete control and accessibility. So when you put banking, which is what I teach, and investing together, or your business, suddenly you have a recipe to explode whatever you're doing, because you're going to control more of that flow of money in your life. And so this was just a quick intro into what we teach. So you can do 2 things with this information. If you're anything like me, you see something like this and you're like, this is definitely something I'm going to go keep learning about. So if that's you, scan that QR code. It's going to take you to our Beat the Banks page. There will be some follow-up videos that'll show you how whole life insurance has a high rate of return. It's going to show you how to use it as a banker for expenses like vehicles. And then I'm going to show you how to use it for an asset like investing in real estate. So you'll get some real life examples on how the concepts we just went over are applicable. Or if you don't want to scan the QR code and you'd rather us personally send you the videos, just email Joe, J-O-E @factomfinancial.com. That's my right-hand man. He will give you all the additional resources you request, or you can just scan the QR code and get them. And so let me just pull up. Now, I'm very authentic with my financial situation and my numbers. So what you're looking at here is an Excel spreadsheet. I've got any super private data like my policies numbers blurred, but I show this stuff on my courses that I've built for this. And so right now in my policies, I've got about $726,000 of cash value. So that's where I keep the bulk of my savings. I don't leave a lot of money with commercial banks anymore, maybe 3 to 6 months of expenses. That $726,000 that I have liquid in those policies is growing $3,700 a month income tax free right now. So if you're in a 30 or 40% tax bracket, that's like earning, $5,000 to $6,000 a month gross in some other liquid safe vehicle. You would have to keep millions and millions of dollars in a commercial bank to guarantee the same type of return that's sitting in here privately. Now, the other benefit is those 8 benefits we talked about, the guarantees, the privacy, the constant compounding. My account will never be lower than 726, never. Every time I put more money in, it explodes the compounding, it keeps growing. But I also own a little bit over $18 million of life insurance. Now, that's not all on me. That's my wife, that's our 3 boys. I have business partners insured. There's a lot of other strategies that are involved in here. And so when I say whole life has a high savings rate, this is what I'm referring to. So the reason the real estate world is really taking a big look into this is because when we're investing in real estate, running our businesses, we know time is money. So we're trying to turn our money fast, get it into the next property, whatever it is. This system allows you to capture more of those dollars, harness them, earn interest on them guaranteed, but also be a little bit more patient in the money game. You can wait for some good deals to come across your table because now your cash accounts or your savings environment is very efficient. And so I want to, I'll pull up that QR code again, actually, if anyone still needs this. And I'd love to take any questions. It's 10:48, so I'll stay on here as long as you want, Kimberly. We have an entire video course. So if you need like way more education, I've got 10 hours of content, video courses for business owners, investors, family banking, personally, the ins and outs of this system. It's all on our website. Just scan that QR code or ask us for the additional resources. And we teach a deep dive class every month. This is all we do, by the way. We don't do anything else. We just specialize in this topic. It is our passion. It is our purpose. We live to teach it. You can probably see why after going through a quick conversation like this, but this is just the tip of the iceberg. So I would love to take any questions if you have them for me right now.
In the chat, there's a few questions that I'll just go back and kind of look at for you. One of them is, but what if you didn't do this years ago and now you find yourself at 65? What are my options?
Great question. So my 2 first mentors in this business, one was 56 and one was 64 when they started this process. So the 64-year-old that started this, he's now 80. And he would do it all over again at 64. So don't think you're too old for this. Insurance is an interesting asset because it's priced perfectly for who's buying it. So yes, you might buy a little less death benefit if you're older than I am right now, but the cash accounts and the benefits all behave the same way. So there's also some other strategies involved in there. Like I said, I don't just own insurance on me. Sometimes if we have someone, because I've got clients that are in their 70s, and they might not be able to get insurance, but they can own policies on business partners, spouses, children. So you can still purchase policies that are very efficient on a great, healthy individual, and you can own them and do exactly what I'm talking about here. So don't think that the age is too big of a factor. And I've got lots of videos explaining those numbers as well.
Great.
How much does age play a factor? Yep, so we just kind of covered that one. If you had a whole life policy, but never did anything with it, what do you recommend doing with it? So we wish we would have known this info sooner. That's what everyone says. And that's why I buy insurance on my little boys when they're 15 days old. That's the earliest you can insure a human being. And so we start them as early as possible so that they don't have to wait till they were 24 when they started like I do. And so if you've got a policy, email Joe at Factum Financial. Just tell him you were on this call. And if you send us your in-force illustration, we will gladly look at it for you, no charge. We look at them all the time. We probably get 5 a day that come in. So we'll help you look at it. Depending if it was designed properly and how long you've had it, we'll tell you exactly. Like, there's a lot of them I say, you got to leave this thing. It's been enforced too long. It's still a great deal. But if you want to do what we're doing, there's only about 10 insurance carriers you can work with in the US, and they need to have a certain track record, and the policies need to be designed properly. So 95% of the time, if not more, most whole life insurance is not designed to do what I'm talking about today. So hopefully that doesn't discourage you. Just send us what you have. We'll be more than happy to look at it for you. Can a type 1 diabetic get a whole life policy? That's a good question. I'll have to, our policy services team will know that. It is possible. And like I said, if we have individuals who cannot get insurance, there's always options of one, we'd love to actually help you work on some of those things if we can, because we'll get to a printout of what we can work on health-wise, but also two, we can get insurance on other people, children, business partners, et cetera, et cetera. So every once in a while it does happen, but we have other options we can pursue here.
This is so good. Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else have questions? Because I want to make sure this is a lot. And by the way, I think Kyle said it at the very beginning. This is a huge concept that most of us have misinformation on, if we have any information at all on. And it sounds like, okay, this sounds way too complicated for me. I want to just dummy it down for a minute. He says multiple times today, or has said multiple times today, that this insurance is not an investment. And I think that's the hardest thing for people to get past, right? It's a vehicle for other wealth. And so I think, if you have questions, let's get them answered. I'm probably having Kyle come back, maybe quarterly, just to kind of touch bases and give us next level information, because this is something, when we talk about Real and our wealth building platform, this is so much in alignment with that, right? This is really what helps our agents learn more, know more. The more you know, the more you learn, the more you change your life, the more you have the ability to help change the lives of your clients, friends, and family. So it's not just this, myopic view. It's really so that you are better equipped to be a servant to the people, that you're serving already, and to be able to educate them and point them in the right directions. You don't have to be experts in this. That's Kyle's job, but it's helpful for you to be knowledgeable and educated about it so that you can make decisions for your family. Even if you don't do it for anybody else, right? But for your family, for sure.
It's a great
Kimberly,
point,
can I throw
Kimberly.
something out?
Oh, go ahead, bud.
Kyle, brace yourself. I'm going to compliment you. Just gonna
Uh-oh.
premise this. So Kristen and I have 3 policies with Kyle, and this is a learning curve, you guys. When I first talked to Kyle about it, the light bulb started going off, and then I read the book, and then I read other books, and I dove pretty deep into it. And Kyle really will not let you buy into this until you fully understand it. It's a learning curve, and it takes a little while to grasp it. Some people longer than others, but that's a testament to your integrity, Kyle. He wants to make sure everyone understands it 100% before they get.
I appreciate that, Bud. We're an educational company at heart, and so we're not interested in selling a policy. We're interested in helping you change some multi-generational habits. And so we got a lot of work to do in this country foundationally, and so we're just going one family at a time. And like Kimberly said, this is a savings conversation and a savings problem. Guess what? Your clients are experiencing this same financial pain as well. And so one of the reasons why, RE/MAX has us speak, KW has us speak, is because they don't want to have that conversation with their clients. You have an obligation to help your clients buy real estate, invest in real estate. That's where you should be spending your time. So the reason we're syncing up is so our company can come in there and show your clients how much to save, where to save. So I want you to think about that as an opportunity for you in the future. If your clients are better disciplined savers 10 years from now, and they've got cash in private contracts, our company is also very big on real estate. We know real estate is the #1 investment most Americans should own in their portfolio. And so if we're, growing these relationships with your client base, and they're becoming disciplined savers, as they scale up our wealth pyramid and they start learning about real estate as an investment, which we also teach, they're going to want to come back to you and say, I need 3 to 5 rental properties instead of some of my retirement accounts. We're seeing this happen on a tremendous scale right now. So this is also a way for you to add value to your clients, to get them to purchase more real estate from you in the future, because it's great if they have a primary residence, but we teach classes on if the average family bought and paid off 3 to 5 rentals versus the same money they'll put into a 401k. Nothing against 401ks, but the real estate income is 10 times the 401k income. When people see that, it really makes them stop for a second and say, why are we not putting more money into real estate? And this is why the real estate industry is getting into this at a very big scale right now. And so we'd love to teach with any of your clients. We have a lot of agents that teach us as well. So if you need something, we're licensed in 48 states, by the way, so we do business all over the country. We're here to serve. We're here for whatever you need. There's tons of education on our website. And there was one more question about transferring a whole life. So yes, you can absolutely transfer insurance to another insurance policy. It's very similar as you do an exchange with real estate to like assets in real estate. So you definitely can. We would just have to take a look at it and see.
I did have a question too. I just don't know how to type it out. So, because I don't know if it's going to make sense with how I ask it. But how do you guys, or what do you, when you typically write the death benefit, where are you guys at in that aspect? Because the research and information that I have found on this is obviously low death benefit, high cash value, or whatever that means, or however that makes sense. I'm sure you can make sense of what I just said.
Yep, I know exactly what you're talking about. Great question, Chris. So this is a great opportunity for us to learn. These insurance companies we work with have been around 150 years, and a lot of them have been profitable for 130 consecutive years. So the reason I'm telling you that is that these insurance companies know their numbers inside and out. There's a reason they're profitable every single year. So I tell you that so that I can teach you that there are no deals in the insurance world. I'm going to say that again. There are no deals in the insurance world. So if you as the consumer think you're getting something, we need to stop for a second and really think through that. Because if we're getting, let's say, 90% liquidity in year one in a policy, that's not bad, because you can design policies like that. But if you feel like you're getting a deal as a consumer, what will that cost you in the future? And very few agents in the country are having that conversation with their clients. And so that might be a good policy for you, depending on what your goals are. So the best split is the one that you're going to need based off your goals and your vision. So there is no perfect policy design. Some people need more death benefits. Some people need more access to cash. But the comment I just leave you with is, just remember, insurance companies do not make deals. So if you think you're getting something up front, it 100% is going to cost you something later. So make sure those agents are going down that illustration with you 30, 50 years out to make sure that policy is going to still be performing. Because I've seen some scary, scary illustrations in my days.
Perfect. I appreciate it. Thank you.
My pleasure. Cheryl, you are so welcome. I'm glad you love whole life insurance. I love it too.
Okay, you guys, thank you so much, Kyle, for your time today and for hanging out with us. I appreciate, all of your insight and your wisdom, and shedding light on something that I think is just good for us to mull over and do the research and learn some things. So thank you for being that resource for us. Super appreciate you.
It is my pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
Yay. Hey guys, I'm going to have Liz share really quickly. She has an invite for you coming up this week that I think will help you have some good insight into the market. So I pass this to Liz. Go for it, from Lawyer's Title.
Hey guys, how are you? Liz Tepiak here with Lawyer's Title. It's always great to join the Lions and Legends. There's always great speakers and a lot of information to be learned. With that being said, this week we also have some great information to be learned with Tina Tambor and the Cromford Market Update. So if you guys could join us, that would be great. That is going to be on September the 13th on Wednesday at 2 p.m. And I'm going to go ahead and drop the link over here in the chat so you guys can all register for it. And then also we have another class on Thursday with Mohamida over at the Tempe Lakeshore office. It's off of the US 60 and rural, and that is the sales process. So if you guys could join us, that would be awesome. And that's going to be from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Hey, you
Thanks so
guys.
much.
Happy Monday.
Happy
Let's roar.
Monday.
Have a good one, you guys.
Thank you. You too.
See ya.